Salutations, utopians. Hope everything's going well in your world. Um, we had a lot of news today from well, not just today, but in the last, 48, 72 hours. Monty Williams being relieved of his duties in Detroit, rightfully so. Um, you know, we got news today that the Los Angeles Lakers have finally hired JJ Redick. I've done so many videos on that topic. Um, and then today, what surprised me, I had no clue that teams. I heard that teams can from Brian. I watched yesterday the segment on ESPN where Brian Windhorst discussed teams are able to begin signing their own talent. A new rule that had been created. They can begin signing their own talent immediately, effective immediately upon season completion, which meant like right after the NBA Finals. Congrats to the Boston Celtics. And so, um, but I didn't know that teams could make trades. And today we had a earth-shattering move, though it might not seem that way. Uh, Two guys who are reserved role players were moved between. It was a one-on-one deal. Oklahoma City Thunder and Josh Giddey for uh, Alex Caruso, ex-Laker, I think bubble champion of the Chicago Bulls. Uh, Oklahoma is hoping to get what they didn't get from Gordon Hayward, and as phenomenal of a player as Gordon Hayward is, I do find it to be very interesting that uh, I find it to be very interesting that the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to preserve their draft picks once again. They have last I checked 37 picks, first and second combined, and Sam Presti didn't have to use any of them. And you can never go wrong with depth. And everyone's first impression is Oklahoma fleeced the Bulls, but um, at the end of the day, they got Wallace, Joe, and Wiggins coming off the bench already, and to squeeze Caruso is going to be a very tricky one. Now, I love the quote that Alex Caruso gave one time. I think it was back in 2020 or 2021, um, where he gave a quote in which he said he was explaining why players cannot leave the G League or are struggling to get out. And basically, he said players are going into interviews thinking that they're being interviewed for audition to be the CEO, CFO, when really they're there to be clean the bathrooms. And when you keep that level of self-awareness and humbleness, that will open more doors for you than anyone. The reason why I bring this up, because if anyone can work their way through that tricky role, it's Alex Caruso. Gordon Hayward is not nearly as washed as he looked, and Gordon Hayward is not nearly of a drop off from Alex Caruso as it may seem. Now, don't get me wrong, Alex Caruso, by metrics, is one of the best two-way players, and I'm not talking about in a Rudy Gobert way where you're talking about guys protecting the paint. I'm talking about in a way that involves on-ball defense, understanding rotations, knowing when to double team, when not to. These subtle nuances that make elite defenders. Good defenders are great reactionary players. Excellent defenders direct the offensive players where they want them to go. They dictate the movement. That is the fine difference. Caruso's one of them. He's one of those guys that he will get you to go where he wants you to go. He's not reacting. He's not waiting for you to decide. So they got themselves a very special player, and he's not the kind of guy who's like, oh, I had 20 minutes yesterday, and today I'm getting 10. He's going to make it work with whatever he gets. And he's the ultimate locker room guy. Not saying that Gordon Hayward isn't, but let Gordon Hayward end up on the Denver Nuggets, and I guarantee you're going to see who he is and what he's about and understand that he has plenty left in the tank. Now, to the Chicago Bulls, my first impression immediately upon this news was this is the young Lonzo. Josh Giddey is the young Lonzo. I did not in any way think that there was implications for what it meant for Lonzo Ball. I just immediately thought he's going to go to a situation where they need a pure passing distro first point guard. I don't feel like I feel like there's a space for Josh Giddey in the NBA, but his inability to shoot was going to harm the Thunder, and their masterful game planning did an excellent look. And this is why Daigneault won Coach of the Year. He knew how to scheme and hide from a schematic standpoint. He knew how to hide Josh Giddey, because Giddey was a major liability when he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing. And you could just tell his energy frequency on the court wasn't matching the Shea Gilgeous, the Williams, the Chet Holmgrens. It wasn't on pace, even with Wiggins and Joe, who all had moments in the playoffs. With him, it was just very cautionary. He looked very cautious. And he's the kind of guy, because his shooting is not up to par, and because he does enjoy the facet of distribution so much, that it was natural for him to say, all right, cool. We're going to hide you. He's a 15-minute guy in OKC, but in Chicago, especially with a guy who loves to get buckets and dozens like Levine, assuming that he'll be healthy this year, especially like the fact you got an automatic 20 and 10 in Vucevic in the paint, I can see him being more in control in Chicago. The word around the league right now is that Lonzo Ball might be not amnestied but waived, and he'll be free to choose his next destination. I would love to see Lonzo join his brother in Charlotte and form that backcourt, move LaMelo off to the two guard spot. Even though I think he's a very talented facilitator, I would like to see him, be a little bit more off ball. That way, that there's rumors of them getting Paul George. I feel like Paul George, even though he's a great complimentary guy, it's too relatively close to what Brandon Miller already does. And if they felt like they needed to move off PJ Washington to let Brandon Miller shine, it's going to be really difficult with Paul George, because you can justify why Paul George is scoring. You can't justify why PJ Miller is trying to get 20 points a game if as a number one option, because he was able to do what he was able to do because teams were taking the ball out of Kyrie in Luka's hands. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's a more of a versatile James Posey, Shane Battier. When you start asking him to put the count on him on a nightly basis to be it's a waste of reps. I don't think he's that mindset. His mindset is not that. He's not that kind of guy on a nightly basis. So then moving him out the way for a guy like Brandon Miller, the number 2 overall pick, that was smart for both sides. But now we're having a discussion about, okay, Brandon Miller and Paul George and the Charlotte Hornets using cap space to get Paul, not the brightest of choices. I would rather see them go get Lonzo, move LaMelo to the 2, and guess what? That's one of those kinds of squads then where you're not worried about whether your team is in a contender or not. As a Charlotte fan, you're like, I just want to go watch them play. They look fun. When you got Mark Williams, when you got Grant Williams, when you got when you got Brandon Miller, and then you got LaMelo and Lonzo, the brother tandem, paired with the Bronny LeBron storyline in the league, the family thing, the family matter. I think it's a phenomenal storyline, phenomenal thing for everybody. It works out for everyone. Charlotte's a young, up-and-coming, exciting team. This would only make it more interesting. But kudos to the Bulls. On the naked eye first impression, you think, oh, they got fleeced. But then you realize, technically, they got themselves a real point guard. And as the league is going back to natural guard distribution facilitating guards, you naturally are going to see this type of point guard be in more demand. The Bulls are actually getting ahead of the curve. Okay? Channel your emotions, because all these combo guards are about to go out. You got Dame, Steph, all these guys they're about to leave, and then you got guys like Juan Nunez about to come into the NBA. You got guys like Reed Shepherd. Rob Dillingham's a dual threat, but he's also a capable facilitating point guard who happens to also score on all 3 levels. You're seeing a new wave of point guards. The guy from NC State, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. DJ Burns got a lot of recognition, but their point guard is a savvy veteran with a lot of moxie, can handle the point guard spot. These type of point guards are being segued, and the Bulls are getting ahead of the curve. As crazy as it sounds, them sending Caruso to Oklahoma is going to be better than a lot of people are giving credit, because he's not going to have a tremendous role, even though he's in a contract year. That's my other problem. I don't know how he plans on getting paid. Once again, another guy is going to a team like Oklahoma in a contract year, and is probably not going to end up getting the money he's supposed to, because he's going to be trying to play for another job in the league, and they're testing out his overall, acumen. If he makes this work out for him, this is not a character thing with Caruso. He's already past that. It's about, let's see how high your IQ is. This is a Rubik's Cube thing. This is going to be the greatest test of his career. And if he passes it, there's going to still be a team that'll drop a bag. But Caruso wasn't going to get paid anyway. He's part of the guys who are going to be the casualties of this new cap crunch and this new apron rules that they've put in the second, first, and under the salary cap teams, rules that they just created to prevent super teams that has just been installed in the last year from the CBA. I think that covers everything. I'll try to do better next time, Utopians. What an exciting trade. Global, out.